go.
We're good.
Hi everyone, as he said, I'm Crystal Frund. And when Seth and I started talking about this, we really didn't have a clear picture for what it was going to look like. We were talking, as he said, about some of the projects that I've been working on, and he said, hey, would you ever be interested in speaking at one of these Connect Red events? And I said, I had this face. And I said, well, I paused. I was surprised because I had never been asked to speak before. Well, what he didn't know is that every morning on my top 10, I write down my vision for my future is I speak on stages. He had no way of knowing that that's something that I write down every day, but I said yes immediately. And so he gave me the opportunity to kind of back out. He's like, are you sure? No pressure. I mean, you don't have to. Yes, just yes. So here we are, talking about intentionality. One of the things that I am most passionate about is self-improvement and personal development. And what I believe in most thoroughly is the power of intentional living. And that's why we're here, right? Einstein says if you're not learning and growing, you're dying. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm too young to die, so I'd like to not do that. But we need to think about it intentionally, and I didn't want to put you guys on the spot and make you come up with a mission statement right here. But let me tell you what mine is. My mission in life is to inspire and empower other people to be the best version of themselves. And that actually includes me, which is part of the reason that we're here today. So I defined, by doing that mission statement, I defined what I wanted my life to look like. Not my job title, not my status, not my family ties. I'm a Frund, Frank Frund's daughter. I heard that my whole life growing up. But I wanted to create my life and what I wanted and what I envisioned for that to happen. So this is where you get to decide that you're going to live intentionally. But what does that mean? Well, a couple of things. One, if you don't like it, change it. And don't wait for something to happen, make it happen. If you don't have a clear path, go around. What does intentional living though mean? Well, to me it means not getting up, going to work, coming home, going to bed, getting up and doing the exact same thing again tomorrow. No. There needs to be a fire, there needs to be a purpose, there needs to be some sort of intentionality to how you're living your life. If you want to learn and grow, as Einstein says, you need to probably do something intentionally to get there. It's not just going to magically happen. And what I often hear is, but I work full time. I have 3 kids. Okay, you're busy, right? But busy, I know, that's why I said it. Because I'm busy. Busy. We're all busy, aren't we? We're all busy. But you know what that means? We glorify busy. Women do it mostly, men do it too, but it's mostly women. But I don't understand why. Because the truth is, if we really want something, we're gonna figure out how to make that happen, right? And if not, it just won't. We'll make an excuse. We've all heard that passage. We all have the same 24 hours in the day. We can all make our choices. And I already know it's easier said than done. But not if you have a plan, right? So let's talk about how we make one. How do we make a plan? Well, there's really 3 steps to this. The first is figuring out what you want, what's really important to you. The second step is figuring out why you don't have it already, and what's been holding you back from making these dreams come true. And the third thing is how to actually create that life and how to get to what you want. So we'll talk about those things. And then I'll give you some tools that I use to kind of keep me moving forward in that process. So let's start with the first one, figuring out what you want. In front of you, you'll find Post-it notes and a pen. Okay? There's plenty of them there. Let's focus on 10 things that you love about your life, that you want to be in your life, the things that you want most, the things that get you going in the morning, you're passionate about. It doesn't matter what it is, not people necessarily, but traits or behaviors or, I don't know, I love my work. Whatever it is for you, whatever those are, write them down, each on a different piece, and then lay them out in front of you. We're going to work with those a little bit, okay? I'll give you a couple of minutes to do that. And I'm going to put mine up here. Don't overthink it, just let it come out. For those of you at home, I want you to be doing this too.
Should we stop at 10? Or?
Yes. Okay. Mainly because the first 10 are going to be the first ones that.
Oh, well, maybe that's all. Just couldn't stop.
That's not a bad problem to have. Are you done?
Yeah. I don't know how to spell that word. Exercise. Is that right?
Spelling is not a requirement.
Okay,
That's a spelling nasty. I give a waiver for this. All right, is everybody done? Okay. So take a look at what you have. Not mine, look at yours. And does this accurately represent who you are, who you want to be, what your best life looks like? Yeah? See, nodding. Okay. Now, in thinking about these 10 things, think about the things that maybe you don't love as much as the others. Okay? What's it kind of lower on your list? We're going to take the bottom 3 and pull them off. Set them aside. Okay?
Gosh, it's probably wrong that I took my kids.
I guess I have to keep my voice.
A little too close to 2.
They're supposed to do things that you do now.
Yes and no, if it makes you happy, absolutely. But the bottom 3 of the things that are not as important. I mean, they're always important. If they were your top 10, they're important in your life. Okay, how are we doing? Good? So now we're down to 7. Let's do it again. Take 2 more.
I know what you're doing here, Crystal.
Good. Okay, do we have our top 5?
No.
Okay.
This one aside.
Yeah, I did too.
Sushi and wine.
No, wine.
Yeah, I did too. Food was on mine as well. Why didn't I put wine? That would have been way easier than some of the ones I put up there. Are we ready? He's like, I don't know.
Go ahead.
Okay, so you have your top 5. These are obviously, of those 10, these are your top 5. So now what I want you to do is I want you to put them in order of absolutely cannot live without to I love them with all my heart. Because they're your top 5 for a reason, right? So put them in order.
Put them in order.
From the very absolutely cannot live without to you love with all your heart still. This might be the trickiest part yet. Got them in order. Can you read them from there?
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like your relationships was a good option, and I should have just done that for family and friends, because it's technically all the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
But we're going at one thing.
So we have them in order of how relevant they are for us. Let's take the last 2 off. Let's leave us with top 3. Okay?
I just had to eliminate my children.
Hey, you know what? Family is one of mine. I did kind of cheat and put it in relationships though in my head, so we're gonna count. I know. Because she had kids, that's a little different. Okay, so top 3. These are the top 3 things that matter the most to you. You wrote them down for a reason, you kept them in for a reason. Now let me ask you this. That busy that we talked about earlier, is your busy centered around these 3 things? She's smiling. Is this what your schedule looks like? If so, great, good for you. I mean, you're ahead of the game, but I know, at least for me, I have work to do. I definitely do. Because what happens is, what we value most is often not put on our schedules. You know, do we put on kiss my baby before I go to bed? Do we put that on our schedule? Probably not. Do we put call mom on the schedule? No, I've got 15 minutes until my next appointment. Hey mom, how are you? Gotta go, love you, bye. Right? We either control our schedules or our schedules control us. And oftentimes other people are very good at making sure that we think what's important is what they want and not what we want, not what we value most. That's the beauty of intentional living. You have a choice. You have a choice to either build your life around these 3 things. Now, I understand that life happens. Work happens. I have to go to work, right? But that doesn't mean that on a day-to-day basis, these things aren't considered. I know for me, personal development is something that I build in, and a lot of these, and I'm sure you do too, they're there, but they're kind of in the back of your mind. What we're trying to do is move them to the forefront and focus on them a little bit more. So what happens though is the choice is easy. The not easy part is defending it and sticking to it and telling people, hey, these are my top 3. That does not fit in that. That is not a priority for me right now. That in this season, in this day, in this life, maybe life, that seems drastic, but it could be. Who feels guilty if they do something for themselves? Yeah? A lot of us do. It's not easy. It's not going to be easy. But with challenge comes change. So let's talk about challenge here. What's stopping us? What's stopping us from living our best life and having these 3 things be our priority? Well, let's try another little exercise. Okay? You won't have to write anything. What I want you to do is close your eyes. And I'm going to say some things that maybe you've told yourself, that someone else has told you, and I just want you to nod if you can relate to anything that I'm about to say. Okay? That won't work. I'm too old for that. I'm not smart enough. What if I fail? That's stupid. But I have kids. It's too hard. It's not the right time. And my personal favorite, why would you want to do that? I'm seeing a lot of nodding. Go ahead and open your eyes. It's so easy to think about all the reasons why it won't work, isn't it? And people are really quick to remind you of why it won't work, especially when you have crazy ideas. But what if I could, right? What if I didn't limit myself to that way of thinking? What if I didn't let other people limit my way of thinking? Could you imagine what we could accomplish if we didn't let any of those things happen? I love this little utopian bubble that we're in, but it would be great, right? I mean, it really would. I was raised that I can do absolutely anything that I can put my mind to. I don't know if that was a blessing or a curse. It really depends on the day. But that's how I was raised. But that goes both ways too. When I went through a very long period of time where I was convinced that my life was just destined to suck. It was just destined to do that no matter what I did. Absolutely. And so guess what happened? It sucked for a very long time. Because I just kept waiting, for something to magically happen to change this mindset, and it didn't. Well, it did. Eventually, I made the choice where I had to be a little bit more intentional about what I actually wanted. And then I went to a company culture seminar, and one of the things he said was, when you hire people, hire them for their superpower. No, we don't hire for superpower. What's a superpower? Do I have a superpower? Well, actually, I think everybody has a superpower, and more than one, usually. I think I have two. One of the things that I think is my superpower is that I can make a system out of anything. Process development is my jam. I cannot live without it, even though it's not my top 3 anymore. It's still in the top 10. But I think number 2 is maybe more important, and that's my ability to go around. So go around. Does anybody know who Mitch Hedberg is? Okay, so for those of you that don't, he's a comedian. He's gone now. But he had this laid-back, drug-induced style that kind of snuck up on you, right? And so he was talking one time about his neighbor was pounding on his wall to get him to turn his music down. And he said, go around. He said, I don't know if you have a door on that side. He said, but over here, I can't open the wall. You're going to have to go around. So you see a wall. I see a door. I see a door over here. So I'm going to go around. And the thing is that I think that consists of 4 different things. Anyone who spends any amount of time with me will know that that is a phrase I say very often. In fact, if I ever get a tattoo, it's going to say go around. I just believe in it that strongly. So what is it? Well, it's a combination of resourcefulness, being able to access people and information to get what you want, and also a little bit of persistence, a lot of persistence. No is actually a motivator for me. And stubbornness would be a third component, which I have in full force thanks to my German heritage. But really the most important is an absolute belief in myself. I can't do it for you, but you certainly can. And like I mentioned earlier, if you don't think you can, that's equally powerful. So basically what happened is, like I said before, I made that choice. And one of the things by making that choice is I could start a new pattern. And the choice that I made, you can either change how you do things, or you can change how you handle it. So the first thing I did is I made a choice. How we talk to ourselves. We mentioned that earlier. One of the things that I made the choice to do was I lost 140 pounds. It was a choice that I made, and I found something I didn't like. So I changed it. But that revolves more than just saying it, right? There needs to be action. So the second thing I did was take action on that. And so what happens is I jumped ahead of myself a little bit, so I'm trying to avoid being flustered. What happens is when you have the choice and you have that belief in yourself and the trust that you can make that happen, what happens? You do the thing. You do the thing. That was the lead into that last thing that I was just talking about. Skip right ahead. So take action. Don't wait for something to happen. Make it happen. I'll give you another example, perhaps a better one. Verifications, when they closed. I was one of the people that was affected by that. And a lot of people were mad. A lot of people were devastated. They have no way of feeding their families. They need to do something. I took it as a sign. I took it as a sign because I had been thinking about my dream job for a very long time, but it was never the right time. Well, here it was on a silver platter. Oh, this big company closed. You know what happens when that happens? The state offers additional training. So I knew immediately, I know what I'm going to do. So I walked in and I said, I want to be a real estate appraiser. And they said, no one's ever used that for that before. And they have now. They have now. So now I was able to get my dream job. Well, let me back up. I was able to get the education for my dream job. Second task, find somebody to train me. It is not an easy thing to do. Nobody wants to give away their bread and butter to some new chick who thinks she's going to run the world, right? So he said, I found a guy south of here, and he said, no. No, emphatically no. But we don't take no, do we? No. We go around. So I said, well, that's okay. You just think about it. I'll go take some classes. You think about it, and you call me when you're ready. Not going to call you. Not going to call you. Bye. Not going to call you. Okay. And then he called, and he offered me a job. So I proceeded to work with him until I couldn't anymore, and I found my actual mentor in the field and was able to work with him before I started my own company. Go around. You can turn any negative into a positive. You just have to find the door. There's always a door. The next piece of the puzzle is the third and final one, and really what it comes down to is a 9-year-old's wisdom. My nephew just turned 9. He has the best one-liners I've ever heard in my entire life, and this is my favorite. I'm gonna do it my own self. He says it to me relentlessly, and he's right because he's my family. I mean, not far from the tree. So if I have to do it my own self, sometimes the path to one of these things is not easy. It's not clear. You don't know what it is. It doesn't exist. So if it doesn't exist yet, maybe you need to build it. One of my other business ventures is we sell things. We buy things and we sell them. Well, we do this online predominantly, but sometimes you just want to see people, and the only way you can do that is to go to events, right? So we started looking. We wanted to be a little bit more social. We're social people. And I looked. Vendor fairs, craft shows, they looked awesome, except for they all sell new stuff. I don't sell new stuff. I sell pre-owned, basically anything you can think of that somebody's had before, I have it. Almost guaranteed. So there was nothing like that, at least not here. So I'd like to introduce to you the Pickin' and Grinnin' Indoor Rummage Sale and Flea Market. Shameless plug here, April 13th, our next event, 9 to 3 out of the Davidson County Fairgrounds. Come and join us. That was only part of the reason, but we started with 7 vendors. If you've never been in the activity center, it's 15,000 square feet of open space, and we had 7 people in half of it to start. April 13th, we will have over 40 spaces filled. The whole thing will be packed. And that's where it's grown from. We had, in 2018, we had 61 different vendors from 30 different cities. We had customers from over 150 miles away come to this event. If you build your dream, they will come. You just have to take the steps to do it. You just have to take the steps to do it. So we've talked about how we get there. That was kind of the third piece, right? How do we get there? If you don't like it, change it. If it doesn't exist, build it. And don't wait for something to happen, make it happen. So let's talk about some tools that you can do, right? Because you can't do it all at once. Well, you can, but it's not going to be as helpful as if you do it one at a time. So let's talk about goals. We set our 3 priorities tonight, but let's see where we started from. Who has goals and dreams? Raise your hand. Okay. Who has them written down? Okay. She's like, kind of. Who has them, who looks at them every day? Okay. Who writes them down every day? Anybody have a vision board? Okay. Okay. So whether you do or not is irrelevant. That's why we're here, right? To talk about that. If I can leave you with one piece of information tonight, it would be the absolute importance of writing things down. I cannot stress enough how important it is to keep things in the forefront of your mind, and the only way you're going to do that is to write them down. Do you write down appointments? Of course you do. You want to remember them, right? Do you make a to-do list? How else are you going to figure out what needs to be done yet, right? So if you're a visual person, we talked about that a little bit, maybe you need to see it to believe it. So I actually brought my vision board. Everybody's is going to look different. Your goals are going to be different. Your life's going to be different. But one thing I would like to point out is I speak on stages. Okay? Not only is it on my vision board, I write it every single day. Every single day I write that I'm going to speak on stages. And I write them as if they've already happened. Because I want to believe it. I want to see it. I want to know that those things are real. They have to be real. Or what's the point? I mean, dreams are great, but we need some work boots, friends. So I also mentioned earlier that one of my superpowers is that I like systems. I love to develop systems. So the next thing I'm going to show you is a system that I developed to create a more intentional life. Okay? I call it DIVE. DIVE is as simple as it sounds. It's an acronym because I'm fond of those. And it basically is 4 parts. You decide what you want, you implement your strategy, you visualize your success, and you evaluate your progress. Simple enough, right? Simple enough. So let me give you a quick example. So let's say you want to lose 20 pounds. Okay, that's a common goal for a lot of people. So you've decided what you want. 20 pounds, it's measurable, it's specific. Easy, we're off to a great start. Next, we're going to implement our strategy. How are we going to do that? Well, maybe we're going to exercise for 30 minutes every day. We're going to drink half our body weight in water. We're going to eat foods that fuel us. That's going to be different for everyone, but whatever works for you. Okay. Now we need to visualize our success. We're going to write it down. I weigh 150 pounds, or whatever 20 pounds less looks like for you. We're going to picture ourselves 20 pounds lighter. We're going to say, how do I feel when I'm 20 pounds lighter? How do my pants fit? All of those things are ways to visualize what that looks like. Cement it in our mind. That's our goal. That's what we're going to do, right? Then we're going to evaluate our progress. Notice I don't have a timeline on here because the timeline's irrelevant. How am I doing? Did I lose 1 pound this week? Did I not lose anything? Well, I know that I just ate a whole pizza and a bottle of wine. So pretty sure we know where our progress is. Doesn't change the fact that we're on a mission, right? And I'm a person that tracks everything. I track everything that I eat, everything that I exercise, all those things, because I don't know how else to try to hold yourself accountable when you don't know where you started from. In fact, I gave you a copy of something that I use, a handy-dandy little spreadsheet that, for me, I write down the things that I need to make sure I do. I need to make sure I exercise. I need to make sure I drink my water. And I'm one of those people that likes to fill in the boxes, so it helps my brain to visualize what I'm trying to accomplish. You can put whatever you want in there because everybody's journey is going to be a little bit different. So let's try one together. Okay, let's try this process together. I won't pick on you to pick one of yours. So let's try one of mine. Okay, let's just pick relationships. That's a fairly common one. Okay, I'm going to need your help with this. So decide what you want. So what's a goal related to relationships that maybe we would set?
Spending valuable time with my husband.
Perfect. Perfect. Time with your husband. Okay, we know what we want. It's specific. So how are we going to do that? How are we going to spend time with our husband? How do we make sure we do that?
Has to be a conscious decision.
Yes. And
You know?
and how would we implement that? How would we make that happen?
Say no to other things and other people.
Okay.
I mean, that's all there is to
Absolutely.
it. I mean, it's just, you know, that's my kids is one of mine. And,
Sure.
and, you know, it had to come to a point where I consciously, I mean, obviously I should choose them, right? You know, I should have always chosen them. But there were times where work got in the way. I had something more important that, you know, I had to get a babysitter, blah, 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 whatever. No, not anymore. And I have the kids. That's all there is to it. Everybody else, you know.
Right. And it's not a should.
Same with the spouse.
Exactly.
You know?
So maybe a way to do that is some people do a weekly date night, for example. Okay, so I know, and I'm going to, one of my strategies is every week I'm going to schedule, when I make my schedule, because we all know we do this, even if it's subconsciously, we're going to set a date night. I'm going to say at lunchtime, I'm going to text my husband something, whatever it is. Any little thing to connect, doesn't matter, right? Or your kids, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Okay? What does success with this look like? Happier marriage? Happier life because you have a happier marriage, right? And then how do we evaluate our progress? What's the bar? I mean, what does happy look like for you? And that's something that you and your husband obviously would need to decide on your own. But any improvement is better than zero. And if you're consciously thinking about it, you are destined to have improvement, I would say. I would say. Anybody have another one they want to do? Feel free to say no. I didn't put you on the spot for a reason. So the point is that nobody can do it for you. Nobody can do it for you. So the next part is that once you have this down, you can use it for any of your top 3 or even your top 10. Whatever the thing is that you need to do, you can apply this method to all of them. Not at the same time, but one at a time. You can focus on each one. And then what happens is that habits transform your life. Once you start doing this, you have that habit, and once you succeed one time, it snowballs. Because the next time is easier. You already have the process in your mind, you already know what to do. It makes it a lot easier. So one of the other ways to intentional life is to intentionally do things. One of those things is routines. Does anyone have a morning routine that they do every day? Okay, great. My morning routine is actually it's called The Miracle Morning. Has anybody heard of that? Read the book? No?
I've heard it.
Yes, he probably has. From me. So basically, you'll see on your sheet that I handed out there it's another acronym, SAVERS. And what that means is silence, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing, writing. I take pieces of those to fit my life. Everybody does it differently. Some people go in that order. I don't necessarily go in that order. I do make sure that the first thing I do in the morning is I feed my mind with reading. Anything from self-help, empowerment books, to a business idea, to just something I might be interested. I just finished a book about how fat affects the body. I don't know, I was interested. And then I also write. I have a workbook that I use, that I developed using this. But it doesn't matter what you're writing, as long as you're writing something. You're focusing on your goals, you're focusing on your dreams, you're focusing on your day ahead. So you can have a plan, you already know where you're going. It makes it a lot easier to be productive right out the gate, intentional. I also exercise first thing in the morning, because if I don't, it's not going to happen, for one. I'm not alone in that, I'm sure. And also, who doesn't feel like they can take on the world after the workout, right? Am I wrong? And I like to end my day the same way, more of a highs and lows scenario, things I'm grateful for, and make a plan for the next day so I can keep the momentum going. Once you start, like I said, it just keeps going. And that's the same reason why I track everything, because I don't want my life to happen to me. I want to have it happen for me. And the only way I know how to do that is to do it my own self, right? Oh, and I love a challenge. Like I mentioned earlier, these boxes, they are life. They really are. Anything though, from dry January to last 90 days to diet bets. I love a challenge. Anybody else a challenge person? They have to have a challenge? I'm getting blank stares, I'm gonna go with no. But I am, so, and that's one of those things, but maybe you don't need that. Maybe you just need something to keep you a little bit more consistent, right? It's not about the things that I do, it's about the tools that you use to make the life that you want, not necessarily me. A couple of thoughts on that. Consistency, it really is the key. It's small things done repeatedly that really do make the difference, because dreams don't come true by accident or overnight for that matter. So the key points I would say would be make the choice. Take one step at a time to go around. Focus on what you want your life to look like and proceed accordingly. Break it down into manageable pieces. Develop those routines and habits. And at least to me, that's how you live an intentional life. So, thanks for being here. I appreciate it.